Ciao, Andrea. Hi, Steve.
Hi there.
Mark, hi Steve.
Hey, Andrea. I have no idea what Steve's meeting note taker is.
It's a bot that listens in and will do typing, but I'm surprised it's not you.
Yeah, I was the first one to join, so it's just weird. I definitely don't set it up on my side.
Well, then it's easy enough for us to
boot it.
Yeah, exactly. Eject it from it's there. I've seen it in other cases where people use it as a way to do audio to video or audio recording, but it's easy to just say, actually, somebody who's running the meeting can eject them. So Andrea, I assume that would have to be you.
Well, I'm signed in on the meeting with my personal accounts, and we have a TOC account which is used to set up the meeting. So I'm actually
It's not going to hurt anything, so no big deal.
It's a public meeting anyway, so no harm.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's just weird that it showed up.
I apologize, got some background noise today. I hope it's not too bad.
No, you're good.
Okay, I would say let's wait another minute or two to see if more people want to join. In the meanwhile, free to sign yourself in. Okay, it's 4 past. Probably a good time to get started. Hopefully you can hear me and see my screen. Yeah, good. So welcome everyone to the TOC meeting. Today is June 6th, 2023. Thanks for signing yourself in. The agenda. We have a few items on the agenda for today. If there are more things that you would like to discuss, please add them to the agenda as we go. So I think the first topic that we have for today is the project representative elections. So thanks for the agenda. But yeah, so as a update, the nomination period ended on Monday, June 5th. So we received candidates from 5 other projects: City Event, Rotarius, True Davos, Spinnaker, and Texan. And there are 4 projects did not make any nomination. Jenkins, Jenkinex, Shipwright, and Persia. Yes, and I see a question there, and definitely wanted to bring that up. So there is a comment from Oleg to propose Mark, but there's no actual nomination there in the issue yet. So it's not clear to me what was the intention. It was just a misunderstanding, a miscommunication, and or what's happened here. There was no intention anymore for you, Mark, to candidate yourself.
Well, and that may have been the intention, but I think as a matter of fairness and the rules, if nominations have closed June 5th, then that proposed nomination is not a nomination. So I think we just have to say, okay, it'll have to wait till next year before I can be nominated.
Well, I'm not sure. Did we have a governance meeting to sign it out? Because I guess the idea was that we would discuss it at the governance meeting, but last meeting didn't happen the previous week, right?
You mean Jenkins governance meeting?
Yes.
So we definitely had, I'll have to check to see, but we had a governance meeting. We did not have a governance meeting on Memorial Day on that.
Okay, so yeah, I guess Memorial is maybe not.
But so back to the question, Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to be nominated, but I don't want to cheat the rules of the election, right? So that's the piece where I think correctly we should be very careful that we don't do something that would be inappropriate.
Yeah, I mean, personally, my feeling is that since the intent was already expressed in the issue before, and we have not started the voting yet, so we have a couple of days of buffer. If you're still interested in the nomination, I would propose to allow for the nomination to be added to the list. But yeah, maybe let's hear what the rest of the TOC thinks about that.
That works for me if the intent was to nominate.
Yes, the intent was to nominate. We got 3 votes in the mailing list, I believe, plus some discussions in the chat. What blocked us, I believe that, yeah, last week there should have been a governance meeting where we would have signed it off. But yeah, there was no meeting, at least in my calendar, and I guess we diverted. Well, basically, it just fell between the cracks.
Right.
So, in my opinion, from the community side, we don't have a strong consensus, but we definitely have the majority of the governing board supporting that idea. So I think that we could proceed with Mark's nomination. I think I should apologize for that because I should have verified that we have a formal vote until the deadline. So what do others think?
I think it makes sense.
Same. I'm okay with moving forward with the nomination as well.
Thumbs up for me.
Yeah, works for me too.
So from what it looks like, we don't have too many nominations anyway. So I think it would be reasonable to proceed.
Well, so we do have nominations for not all of the project though. So, but But I don't see anyone opposed. I don't know if people think we need to hold a formal vote. Otherwise, I think for me, it feels like if we define in the meeting notes that we extend because the they do not have something inside, so we make an exception for a few days to accept an examination.
Yeah, if we need a motion, I can do that, just to make it formal for the meeting minutes. So I motion that we accept the nomination for Mark based on the intent listed in the Git issue.
I'll second.
Thanks. Even Melissa, so let's wait, vote on that. And anyone in favor, please say yeah.
In favor or against?
You broke up, sorry.
In favor. Oh, sorry. Anyone in favor, please say yay.
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 And anyone against? Or anyone abstaining from vote?
Well, I kind of abstained because yeah, I'm Jenkins representative. But yeah, that's my piece.
Okay. Okay, thanks everyone. Then the motion is voted as accepted. Okay, so would you be in a position then to submit the nomination to the issue today?
Yeah, well, I'll submit a biography today. Yes, absolutely.
All right, great. Thanks everyone.
I believe that's accepted, right? It's okay that the nominee submits their own biography. I think others have followed that pattern, so that's okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Okay, so thanks everyone. So we have then one extra nominee. So we didn't receive, unfortunately, a candidate from Jenkins Thursday. And then voting will start on Thursday, June the 8th. Any questions, any other comments on the project representative elections? Okay, moving forward, CDF charter update. Patty, did you want to introduce this one? Or I can comment?
Yeah, I can quickly introduce topic. You know, there has been discussions within TOC, I think, last part of last year around having vice chair, deputy chair, co-chair set up for the technical side committee to help with the technical side committee issues. And then I believe, Tracy, you wrote the wording for the clause 7F, and we worked with the legal, LF legal. I believe we took it as is. Maybe legal made some minor changes to that clause F. Now the CDF TOC has an option to, you know, run an election and have a deputy chair for TOC. This charter was approved by the board, I believe, 2 weeks ago, and it's in effect now, the clause F.
Great, thanks, Fatih. I guess the question to the group is then, when do we want to hold the election? do we want to wait for the current election to be completed, or do we want to draw it right away? I'm asking because there might be some.
I would say we just wait till this election is finished and then handle it then. That way we just have everybody on the same page.
Okay, anyone opposed to this proposal? Okay, sounds like a no. Okay, so I'll create an issue that we can follow up once this election is finished to start the other election for the deputy chair. All right. Next on the agenda, we have SIG updates. We've not done this for some time, and Melissa asked to bring this up earlier in the agenda. We skipped it for a few times earlier. I don't think we've done this yet since I've been a chair, actually, in fact. So I'm not sure if there are members from the different sponsor from the different SIG that they want to provide some updates on this on the respective interest group, or any other proposal how we run this.
I guess for this time, I was thinking, you know, if there are any blockers, any issues that need to be put before the TOC, anything that we need to be aware of that's coming up, any contributions that have been made or developed that need some attention or promotion, things like that.
So on the Ortilia side, we probably should do an update on Emporis.
Yeah, it's kind of outside of the SIG stuff, but more of a project update.
Yeah. But this is just making me realize that that's not an area we've chatted with everyone about, because it's not a CDF SIG, but it is touching a CNCF SIG, which is the artifact SIG. Which is part of the CNCF's application delivery.
Yeah, so the quick update on that is they are in the process of forming an official artifact SIG governance docs. And there's been folks from Ortelius, Emporis, who else was there?
I don't know. There was a bunch of people who were on the CNCF side who participated in a lot that I didn't recognize all their names.
Yeah, Docker Hub, some of the supply chain tools. So it was an interesting
Artifact Hub, I believe.
Yep. Interesting how there's crossover between all of the different foundations. So something that we definitely need to keep a watch on.
So maybe that gets elevated to a bullet point similar to collaboration with the OpenSSF.
Yeah, that looks good. And they're looking at mainly OCI registry standards. So, and how they can expand the use of OCI. So that definitely is going to come into play with on the pipeline side. When you publish artifacts and consume artifacts, this is going to come into play.
Yeah, that seems very relevant. Also for sounds like a good form to bring up city events and interoperability. And so thanks for
Yes,
bringing this up.
exactly.
I can speak to the interoperability one. So we've noticed, decrease in engagement and, folks showing up to meetings. And I think there may be other SIGs experiencing that as well. We lost one of our chairs. I'm currently still co-chairing that. Justin Abrams stepped down and we started an election for another chair, and I nominated the DC. He's pretty engaged with this SIG as well. So in our next meeting, we'll consider all nominations and move forward with that to get a second co-chair. But at our last meeting, we discussed what we need to do to get more engagement. And although we have our mailing list is for people who already know about us. So we are considering, what to do to basically market the SIG outside of the existing community and draw some more folks in. So we discussed some ideas around that at the last meeting. And then we have a plan to basically reintroduce the SIG because there were quite a few that started in the beginning that have dropped off. And I kind of think we need a revamp and a reintroduction. We do understand there's going to be vacations and stuff this summer. We usually take some time off. So we discussed targeting August 3rd for a relaunch of the interoperability SIG. Involved in that, we have a white paper that is in progress. And we have a few names of people that we want to get engaged in that and to be able to communicate those updates over the mailing list. Yeah, I think that's about it for that. We do have a couple of topics we're interested in. We're still interested in abstracting the running and setting up of pipelines. That is one topic we'd like to discuss. Another one is visualizations among all of the components of a delivery process. And then we want more engagement from the community on what others might care about. So that's our goal with trying to get more engaged. So I think we're good. We have a plan there. I can speak to supply chain SIG. I'm the sponsor for that, but have not been a very active member of that. And I noticed they also dropped off in membership and engagement. I think their last meeting was in March and have not had one since. So I contacted the chairs of that SIG, and both of them told me that the SIG seemed to have moved in a direction that neither of them were interested in going. So they both, did some reprioritization and decided that it might be time to get new leadership for that SIG. We might be in a position where we need to relaunch that one as well if there's still interest in the community. apparently this one was really active in the beginning too. So something I'd like to do is go through, their meeting notes, go through some of their meetings and see what changed. I know the whole industry kind of is under pressure for reducing obligations and reprioritizing. So that might be some of it. But it seemed like there were a lot of topics that were still pretty interesting that were being discussed. So I would hate to see us, just put this SIG aside. I think we should at least try to revive it if we can.
I wonder if there was a overlap with a lot of the OpenSSF supply chain stuff that people just migrated over there.
Lots of overlap, I think.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah,
And
when you mentioned
Yeah.
other CNCF SIGs, yeah.
Yeah,
we-
so
we-
CNCF app
collaborate.
delivery could be another area for collaboration, but it's also rather dormant at the moment. So both Alex Jones and other, I can recall the name of other technical lead, they were interested in collaborating with the CDF last time we met. So maybe it could be actually a way to merge 2 or 3 active SIGs, well, not so active SIGs to one active. So who knows?
And I'm wondering if that we'll need to look into this, but I wonder if a game plan would be to get the people that are still participating in this supply chain SIG to have them go and move over to the other foundations supply chain SIGs and kind of just pull things back to us from those other organizations and kind of like, I don't know, disband this one, but kind of, I don't know, maybe shrink it. I don't know what the exact word would be.
Well, I think the most logical thing to do, and this is, I'll have this discussion again when we get to the next topic under the OpenSSF, but it feels to me like we need representation in the OpenSSF and we need representation in CNCF. The CNCF just wrote their, what they call it, the Secure Software Factory white paper. I don't know if anybody from our supply chain was involved in that, but maybe the way we reinvigorate this is that supply chain group should be commingling with both the CNCF and the OpenSSF projects, as opposed to trying to start their own. And then they would be able to continue making sure that we are part of the conversation. Because in what I'm seeing in both the CNCF and the OpenSSF, the CDF is not even remembered. And if our working groups were more involved in these other projects, they would be able to bring our input and our influence into those projects, as opposed to trying to start their own. And the OpenSSF is going to have funded projects, so it will be hard to keep up with the OpenSSF.
OpenSSF just doesn't onboard projects, so basically there are 6 only.
Well, I was going to say that I think it will still be worth what Melissa was mentioning, to go through the topics that the supply chain working group was working on, so that at least we have an idea of what the topics are, and if we want to talk to other groups, see if those topics would be of interest to those groups. Because I think the OpenSSF might be specifically looking at things from a security point of view. I'm not sure that the specific focus that the supply chain was looking at. So maybe we should make sure that we have an idea of what the topics of the supply chain working group are, and so that we don't lose them before we merge with other groups.
Yeah, I just added one about their OpenSSF tool chain. So what they're trying to do is dictate what tools should be used in the CI/CD pipeline. which is something that definitely affects everybody here.
Yes, they have a kind of the view that they must be smartly opinionated and very accurately define what tools you should use in the process.
So in
Which-
other words, you should, some of the possibilities are you should only use GitHub Actions and not Jenkins. That could be their opinion. So it does affect everybody here.
Maybe if I can add something to this, because I was the person who proposed the software supply chain SIG, I think it was January 2022, and then after changing employment, I had to step down end of last year. The reason why we proposed this SIG last year was exactly what Tracy, Steve, you were talking about. Like, CNCF talks about security, CI/CD comes up during their conversations, OpenSSF talks about security, and CI/CD comes up as part of their conversations. But what I felt at that point in time, together with a few others, was that there wasn't enough focus around CI/CD aspects of software supply chain security. Like if you look at OpenSSF efforts around different phases within a typical pipeline, they focus on build, packaging, deployment aspects, and so on. And what I felt as missing at that point in time was there wasn't enough focus around what orchestrates all these things, like Jenkins, Tekton, or whatever, like different CI/CD technologies. And the lack of focus actually urged us to form this SIG within TDF to look at software supply chain security from the CI/CD perspective and attempt to contribute to overall efforts from CI/CD perspective, considering that we have the projects, we have the SIGs, and so on. And we actually contribute to Cloud Native Security White Paper. If you look at the version 2, we made some contributions there around April, May there, and we have been working with Mike Lieberman and others around the Fresca, which was like secure software factory. So that was the history of the SIG. So it wasn't to duplicate the efforts that the other communities and contributors are putting within OpenSSF or CNCF, but take part in the conversations and elevate CDF to become part of those conversations. So that was the intention, not duplication, but just fill the missing pieces.
And I feel like that could continue be the focus of that group. But to do so, that group really has to start commingling with both the CNCF in their supply chain efforts and the especially the OpenSSF.
Well, maybe the folks that are there in the CDF supply chain SIG, maybe the TOC asks them to, like Tracy said, commingle, and then maybe once a month come back and kind of do a summary report that could be presented back to us. I know that's a lot of extra work, but it could help bridge the gap that we're running into.
Or understand the areas that they need to focus on that the other groups are not. So it's not redundant. But anyway.
Okay.
There is some opportunity there.
Yeah.
I can give an update on events. It's at the bottom. I have worked on the events working group, as Andrea and Emil know, from the very beginning. I've kind of been their champion. When I look at what the OpenSSF is trying to do in their Sterling tool chain, or now what they're calling their, what was it just recently, the security tool belt, it is in direct, the message is exactly opposite from what we're trying to build in terms of the events. I have brought up in the OpenSSF tool belt, I have brought up events, and there are people who are very interested in it. We recently put together, everybody should know this, the events team put together a white paper for CDCon. That white paper is out there. I've been pushing it out, socially networking it wherever I can. We really need to get the word out about events from the perspective of what is the CDF really focused on? What are we really trying to solve? And that interoperability issue is impacting now the open SSF, which is why they're saying, well, we're just going to build a big tent and suggest certain tools so we don't have to deal with interoperability. And there's funds available within the open SSF, including funds around Alpha Omega project, which in the Alpha Omega project, the effort is to standardize open source tools around a certain, that basically the tool belt. And then everybody else has to follow that kind of model, the Omega side of the house. This is a place where we really could create a CD events process and use them as our adopter. And I really believe that's what we should focus on. I don't know how to go about doing it. The only thing I can say is I keep talking about it. But if we look at why we exist to make the CD process better and faster and more secure. That's what we've said from the very beginning. CD events does that. That is our way of getting there. And the team has made some really great progress on vocabulary. Testing vocabulary is pretty complete. The Cube Shop folks are going to be doing a CDF online meetup. And we're also working on a blog on testing events with the folks from Cube Shop. So that is the name, right? Cube Shop and Test Cube, or the Test Cube is the project. I get them. Test Cube is the project and Cube Shop is the company, I think. Is that right, Bati? Yeah. Okay. Yes. So we've gotten a little bit of momentum around test events. I think what will really give us more of a rocket blast is if we can get the tool belt to understand that a big tent approach is the only approach that we can take for solving the security puzzle. And CD events and a vocabulary around those security events, whether they be generating SBOMs or a signature or signing, is what we really need to work with them on. And to move forward in the events area, we've got to get to a point where we can start seeing some adoption of it. And I don't know if we have an adopter, do we, Andrea? Potentially?
For CD events, we do adopter. So we have Fidelity.
Fidelity
CD events,
yeah.
Not the test event today, but they're
yeah.
Yeah.
But even the smallest proof of concept and the smallest adopter will make a big difference. So I feel like we really need to do some hardcore outreach and pushing on the Open SSF to consider being our security events resource. Now, that could be something that the supply chain folks work on and work with the Open SSF to get that done. But somehow we really need to be part of that Open SSF solution. CD events should be front and center to it. I know it's not what Brian has perceived in his mind, and when he's been talking about the Sterling toolchain for quite some time. He's now the CTO, so he's going to be focusing on it. I think he has another thought in mind, but we need an opportunity, and we really just need to get out there and start talking about it and making sure that that team who's working on that tool belt understands what CD events could bring, how it could solve so many problems. On that note, I would encourage more of you who are on this TOC to get involved in that conversation. I think it's a critical one for the CDF. So we're at I think that CD events is at a really good place. the security events will be a core reason why companies would need to move to an event platform. And I would hope that the first project that could really get involved in it would be Jenkins. So I'm reaching out to the Jenkins side, to Oleg and Mark, to start getting involved in that tool belt conversation and hear what they're doing and make sure that Jenkins is part of the solution.
And also Tecton.
And Tecton, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, so my understanding that this tool belt is to some extent replacement for CDF reference architecture, but just moving scope a little bit smaller, right?
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Again, the OpenSFS has some money to spend on this. As soon as the mission is confirmed, I'll be sure and share it with everybody, or I'll send it to Fatih and Fatih can send it out to.
Yeah, just to share some insights, when Jenkins was passing through graduation process, so it was summer 2020, we reached out to OpenSSF and discussed opportunities for having security audit, etc. There is some rough numbers for Jenkins. I don't have them right now, but it was quite a big amount of money to evaluate core bits of the project. And basically, the initial feedback was that the CDF would need to fund it. But yeah, I think it was 3 years ago, so now we can revisit everything. And for the Linux Foundation, Jenkins is still widely used in the ecosystem. Then they earn money on trainings, certifications. So I think they could chip in some cash, especially if we make it a win-win.
I think
there have been things that have changed at the OpenSSF, so there may be a like I say, when things change, we have an opportunity to poke again. And I'm poking. I'm taking a bigger stick, poking harder. So I feel like that having some of you from Jenkins on that toolkit or that tool belt discussion would be pretty important.
Yeah, happy to participate.
Yeah.
So may I add something here? Sorry, I raised my hand, but Andrea, you might have missed that. So actually, we have been, like, when I say we, CD Foundation has been having conversations with Alpha Omega since December last year, I believe. And we have a proposal in place. And then we met recently, as Brian mentioned in the email he sent as a response to Tracy, your email. And the conversations are going pretty positive, actually. And I actually sent an email to a few community members and to make that proposal more concrete. So it's like, as Tracy, you mentioned, Omega looks at one aspect and Alpha looks at another aspect. Alpha aims to secure most widely used open source tools, projects, and so on, like Rust. They're collaborating Rust, OpenJS, Python, and so on. And our intention is to have a collaboration happening between CDF and Alpha, part of Alpha Omega, to make sure our projects are also getting some kind of fund to improve the state of the security of our projects. And Jenkins is part of that conversation already. So once we have that conversation going on with the few Jenkins community members, then we will update the proposal and get that conversation going on with Alpha Omega as well. So that is happening on that side, but not on technical initiative collaboration aspects, because that part falls under the Techno Side Committee, CDF Techno Side Committee, and OpenSF TOC. So we haven't come to that. We haven't touched or talked about those aspects.
Yeah. So what is important is to bring the security team into the conversation. So
I believe Jenkins infrastructure and Jenkins security officer is included in that email I sent.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Fatih. And we have an email thread, also the CDF TOC as included in that email thread with the OpenSSF, and Brian was there. So discussing about the Sterling tool chain and OpenSSF scorecards and general collaboration between OpenSSF and CDF. And yeah, so I guess that's the next topic of I wanted to bring up today. Unless there are more updates, any from the best practices or MLOps working group.
Oh, I got.
Okay. So yeah, continuing on OpenSSF collaboration, then we started this email thread discussing about how to cooperate between the two foundations. One of the topics that was mentioned and how to bring like OpenSSF type of project of technologies to CDF. And today we have the OpenSSF best practices badge as one of the requirements for graduation, but we don't have anything specific to OpenSSF scorecards. OpenSSF scorecard is an automated tool that aims to assess from projects a number of different security related features, including the OpenSSF best practices badge itself, but plus much more. So yeah, I think it would be interesting if we could have maybe someone from that project coming to the CDF technical community and make some presentation about how they introduce scorecards to existing projects who adopted those, what were the success stories or what were the issues, so we can decide if that's something that we want to propose to our CDF projects as well.
So for the Ortelius side, we took one of our repos and added scorecards to it. So if we can't get somebody from the OpenSSF scorecards team to do it, I can kind of do a quick one on our life with scorecards from the Ortelius side. And what we ran into are kind of like our experiences.
Thanks, Steve.
It's an interesting thing because the scorecards is only a GitHub action, so you can't use it in Tekton or Jenkins.
Okay. Does this sound like something interesting that we could then follow up and maybe investigate more eventually? I mean, it would be interesting to bring a presentation to this group, either from the OpenSSF or from Ortelius, proposing that.
Yeah, Steve, if you're willing to share which repository that is, it might be interesting to look at what the action is and see what it would take to implement it in Jenkins or in Tekton.
Yep, I will add the link to the doc. Let me get it.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I guess we already discussed about the Sterling tool chain initiative. Yeah, so I'm not sure if there is a public meeting link or calendar today or what's. So I asked Brian whether it's okay for more people to join. I think I would be personally interested in joining that group, but I think it would be good if everyone who is interested could join. So I'm not sure how the group is set up today. I don't know if Tracy, you have more information about that. Otherwise, I'll ask.
About, I'm sorry, about. About what?
About
Yeah,
the Sterling.
Yes, I will keep everybody as much as I can updated on that. I will be attending the meetings and Steve Taylor has been attending them as well.
Okay, but do you know if the meetings are open to anyone to join? Is there like
They
a
are,
public
they're open to
calendar?
anyone. They're having them once a week right now. They are just trying to get their ducks in a row, so to speak. I don't know if there is a public calendar, but let me go find it for you right now. We can put it in the meeting notes. Let's see, the next meeting, I believe, is coming up. It should be this week because they're doing them. Supply chain, Sterling tool chain. Here we go. Here is the Zoom info. I'll just put it in the chat and you can copy it over, Andre.
Yeah.
There it is right there. And the meeting time is that's weird. Sterling tool chain right there. It's Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific. So that's, I guess I missed it yesterday. Oh wait, today's Tuesday, right? It's happening now. It's happening, right? It's happening at 10 o'clock. It's starting in 10 minutes. So if you want to continue with this conversation, you can join in 10 minutes. But it is on, it's Tuesdays at 9 o'clock. And they're doing them weekly.
And the link, you put it in the chat in Slack, or
I just put it in chat, the Zoom chat for you to pull and
the Zoom
add
chat?
it. So
Okay.
everybody can see it.
I
would
don't
like
see it
to-
yet.
Really? Maybe I sent it to just Fatih, to everyone. Let me try again. How's that?
I have a conflict today, but I'm super interested in what they talk about. Do they record them like we do?
Let me find out. I don't know if they're recording them yet or not. But I will find that out and see if there's a place that you can watch them.
Thanks.
And I looked on the OpenSSF site and there's not a Sterling Toolchain working group advertised yet. So I don't think that there's a mailing list for it yet. I think yesterday I was talking to somebody and they did find a Git repo and maybe a place that you could add your name. I got added because I was previously on the board and then I added Steve by giving him this info and just having him put it on his calendar.
All right, thanks, Tracy.
Yeah, it'd be great if we could inundate them with CDF folks. Because quite honestly, they're great at understanding security, but they don't necessarily understand the challenges around the CD pipeline.
Yeah, I might not be able to join today either, but yeah, I will try to join moving forward if it's interested as well.
Super.
Okay, we only have 6 minutes left. So down in the agenda, I think we have some discussion we wanted to do about the project pipeline reviewing criteria, but I think that will require some more time. So maybe I'll reschedule that for the next meeting. There are a couple of project updates from Percy and Ortelius. I don't know who posted them, but
Yeah, I put them in there. So the Perseus side, they have a lot of the contributors from JFrog were the original folks in the project. JFrog's moved around some of that staff, so there's been a decrease in participation. But I did talk to Stephen Chin last week, and what the plan is to formalize the board We're recruiting a couple more people from outside of JFrog for the board. And that's going to give us a new starting point. And we're going to be looking at reworking the architecture, because right now the architecture is all based on Rust, and Rust is it's hard to get folks to that have any Rust background to come and join a project. They're in high demand for regular companies. So that's kind of what's happening on that side, and that's why Persia did not nominate anybody for the TOC. So that's what's happening on that front. I think we should be pretty good, and we'll keep you apprised what happens with the kind of like the project reorg.
And let me just point out, sort of like CD events is critical to adding security to your pipeline. Persia is a way to achieve SALSA. So Persia is a pretty important project around from a security perspective, and it's another one that we should be reminding OpenSSF that Google is working on these standards. Persia is working on how to get it done. We are basically, if we look at the relationship between the OpenSSF and the CDF, I would say the OpenSSF is like our CISO officers at a large company setting the compliance standards. The CDF is the DevOps team trying to implement those standards. And building the tools to do so.
And then Tracy, you want to talk about the Ortelia side?
Let's see. Well, we should do a proper, we don't have a lot of time. We have 3 minutes. We should do a proper introduction of Emporus and why we added Emporus as a sub-project. That should be just something that we do have the Emporus team be introduced and talk about what Emporus is and why a universal object reference, that concept is important for an extended OCI registry. A lot of what the CNCF artifact working group is talking about in terms of requirements is what Emporus is attempting to implement, and why it made sense to connect it to Ortelius is because we can be a dashboard to that OCI extended registry that brings forward and connects the versions of the artifacts to their security elements, their inventory, where they're deployed, for providing a broader view of an organization's security and DevOps profile. And it'd be great to have some time to let the Emporus folks talk about what they're doing.
And real quick, Mark.
So thanks for the introduction.
Absolutely.
And Mark, I put the links to those GitHub actions in the doc. So if you just scroll up a little bit, you'll see it underneath there.
Thanks very much.
I put the link to the action that we're using, and then some of the output, so you can kind of browse the actions, like call this action. So it's pretty useless 5 lines of YAML, but looking at the output, you'll be able to kind of see what it's trying to do.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks. And Tracy, I mean, we do have a Ortelius presentation scheduled for September, but if you wanted to bring
we can
presentation sooner than that,
yeah, well, we could do. I'd say let's put us down for Emporus for July, and we'll ask Andy Block to do the presentation. OROUS. ROUS. There you go. And put down Andy Block, and I'll shoot him an email and let him know that we would like to. Yeah, Andy Block, yep.
Great. Yeah, with that, we are at time. So thanks everyone for joining. Yeah, until next time, have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Hey, Robert, are you still there?
I think I got on the wrong one.
Wait, don't go away. I want to.
No, I got it. I got a meeting right now.
I do
Sorry.
too, but I'm going to reach out to you for a meeting.
Wonderful. Looking forward to
Okay.
it.
All right, bye.